Heck, General, our discoveries could change the course of the war. Ja, General.
What's up, my vault dwellers? You know, the 70s, they weren't just about disco and bell bottoms. They were about pushing cinema to its limits. You know, while mainstream Hollywood was playing it safe, exploitation filmmakers were creating entirely new subgenres that would influence movies for decades to come. I mean, you had your women in prison films, European art house exploitations, revenge films, and a whole lot more. Today, we're going to look at 13 films that define these genres. But just fair warning, these aren't family films. They're provocative, controversial, and definitely products of their time. But they're also fascinating examples of how low-budget filmmakers just push the boundaries, and sometimes they accidentally made some art. Hey, if you happen to make it to the end, and good luck with that, I have a special surprise for you all. I want to thank you for helping to get this channel over 20,000 subscribers. And if you can't wait, you can just skip to that part if you want. But I think you really want to see what's going to happen in the middle. Am I right? So grab your platform shoes and digital sensor bars, because we're diving into the wild world of 1970s sexploitation cinema. Let's get this started with a film by Jess Franco, the mad scientist of European exploitation. He brings us this bizarre vampire tale that somehow manages to have no fangs, no stakes, and really barely any plot. This was shot in just under 2 weeks with, I think, one camera and one overly worked zoom lens, and a fog machine that pumped out more fog than a Kiss concert. So this film stars Lina Romy as a vampire countess with, let's say, unique feeding habits. The plot, if you can call it that, is basically Romy wandering around in a trance while moody jazz plays and the camera zooms in and out like Franco's finger is just stuck on the lens button. It exists in about 5 different versions depending on which country was showing it and how scandalized they want their audience to be. It's like, you know, someone tried to make an art film but just kept accidentally making midnight movie material instead.
How many times does a queen bee mate?
Only once,
Just once?
and only to reproduce.
Here's what happens when you combine sci-fi B movies with exploitation elements. A mysterious woman scientist arrives in a town, and suddenly men start dying of apparent exhaustion from the bee babes. The script was written by Nicholas Meyer, who would later direct Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan, if you can believe that. What makes this film fascinating, it's how it tries to be both a serious sci-fi thriller and a drive-in feature. The scientific explanations are just hilariously complex, and they're delivered with complete seriousness by actors in lab coats, while bee-themed mayhem happens in the background.
She thinks it's a generator, but I think it's a battery. We was just on our way over to Radium Springs, and suddenly the engine just stopped and quit.
I want you to imagine if someone said, hey, what if we made a movie about beautiful women running around at a trucking brothel empire, but everyone's uniform is hot pants? Well, that's Truck Stop Women in a nutshell. These ladies use their assets, and I mean all their assets, to hijack trucks, run their business, and just thumb their nose at the mob. The stunts, they're actually surprisingly good, and that's probably because half the budget went to Daisy Dukes and the other half went to explosions.
In it, you will be helped to serve the Third Reich. That is your destiny. We welcome you to Camp 9.
Okay, now we're entering controversial territory. This was shot on the leftover sets from Hogan Heroes. yeah, really.
And a good morning to you too, Schultz.
This notorious Nazi exploitation film, it launched an entire subgenre that really nobody was asking for. So Diane Thorne plays the title character with such over-the-top intensity that it almost distracts from the film's questionable everything. Producer Herman Traeger, he was embarrassed by this film. He used a pseudonym, and David F. Friedman, he didn't even want his name on it. Yet, somehow, it spawned 3 sequels and influenced an entire wave of European knockoffs. The film's success proved that there was literally no subject matter too taboo for exploitation filmmakers. This is definitely a proceed with caution entry into exploitation history. You know, it's like someone watched a serious World War II film and thought, let's make this way worse in just every way possible. The film's tagline, the most controversial picture ever made. And that wasn't just marketing hype.
Bonjour, everyone. Meet Emmanuelle.
Hello. Welcome to
Emmanuelle, you just missed a great occasion. A small battleship.
You know, leave it to the French to make exploitation classy. Emmanuelle isn't just a movie. It's the film that launched like 1,000 imitators. This was shot with the kind of soft focus photography that makes everything look like a 1970s perfume commercial. This tale of free-spirited diplomat's wife in Bangkok becomes a legitimate mainstream hit. This thing spawned like more sequels than Friday the 13th and Halloween combined. I mean, we're talking official sequels, unofficial sequels, Italian knockoffs, Japanese versions. I mean, if you can name a country, they probably made an Emmanuelle Goes To movie. I mean, there's even one set in the space, because apparently regular Earth locations, they weren't exotic enough. You know, the funny thing is, compared to other exploitation films, Emmanuelle, it's practically tame. I mean, it's all about suggestion, artsy camera angles, and, you know, the earworm of a theme song that probably sold more compilation albums than the movie sold tickets. But speaking of things that's getting lots of attention, if you've enjoyed this trip through exploitation history so far, why don't you show the video some love and hit that like button? Trust me, it's getting less action than an Emmanuelle sequel. Our good friend Jess Franco looked at vampire movies and decided they needed a whole bunch more go-go dancers. This is what happens when European art house meets supernatural seduction, all set to a soundtrack that sounds like Austin Powers' record collection. Soledad Miranda prowls through the film like a catwalk model who took a wrong turn into a horror movie, while the camera work makes everything look like they just used a lava lamp for a lens. This film was so stylish, it accidentally invented its own genre. I mean, that funky soundtrack even became a hit in 90s clubs, proving that sometimes the best art, it comes from directors who are trying really hard to be artsy while having absolutely no budget. And you know what's as hypnotic as Soledad's performance? The comment section when B-movie fans start sharing their favorite exploitation films. So drop yours below. And by the way, there's bonus points if the title makes you embarrassed to say it out loud in mixed company. Shot in possibly the most fabulous murder house in cinema history, This is what happens when exploitation tries to be Bond meets Barbarella. Soledad's final performance, it's pure fire. I mean, she spends the whole movie either seducing people or killing them, and sometimes both, all while rocking outfits that look like they were stolen from space-age fashion shows. The plot is basically revenge served with a side of seduction. But it's the style that makes it memorable. I mean, every scene looks like a retro fashion shoot just gone terribly wrong. And the modernist architecture? It's so sharp, you could cut yourself on it.
Who told you to part this countess, Indy?
You did, Mother.
I am not your mother. It's a curse that I'm even your stepmother.
Try and imagine if someone watched Logan's Run while high on disco fever and decided to make it a musical. In this totally scientific future, love is outlawed and everyone dresses like they raided ABBA's costume closet. Our Cinderella, she doesn't lose a glass slipper. No. She loses something just a bit more, personal. Instead of a fairy godmother, she gets a flamboyantly fabulous fairy godfather who seems more interested in costume changes than helping her find true love. The musical numbers are what happens when you give people who can't sing songs that shouldn't even exist about subjects that would make your grandmother blush. It's like the movie The Apple.
Magic apple, mystery apple.
But somehow even more bonkers.
Where are you from? California. California matron.
Roger Corman looked at the women in prison formula and decided to give it a whirl, but he set this one in the Philippines. Pam Grier shows up to prove why she became the queen of 70s exploitation, playing one of the most memorable wardens in B-movie history. This film, it has like everything. Your corrupt guards, check. Prison breaks, check. And enough hair-pulling fights to make a salon owner nervous. You know what makes this surprising? It's how it somehow manages to sneak in actual social commentary in between all the prison drama. Plus, I mean, the Philippines location, it just gives it this weird, exotic vibe, like someone tried to make Midnight Express, but got distracted by all the opportunities for catfights. The dialogue, it's pure pulp gold.
Looks like you don't like our little home.
Delivered with a kind of conviction that makes you wonder if the actors knew what kind of movie they were actually making.
Why so hostile? These are the Silver Daggers, and we are the Dagger Devs. What gang?
Jack Hill, he took the bad girls genre and cranked it up to about 11. And this is what happens when someone decides to remake Shakespeare with an all-girl gang, switchblades, and enough leather to make the fawns jealous. And these ladies don't just rule their school, they run the whole neighborhood, all while rocking the kind of outfits that would make a fashion designer cry. The dialogue, it's pure pulp poetry.
Don't waste your time, baby. She's not worth it.
How'd you like that alliteration? And every fight scene, it looks like West Side Story if it was directed by Russ Meyer. Quentin Tarantino loved this movie so much, he re-released it. Probably because it has more attitude in one scene than most movies have in their entire runtime.
Wasn't that film great? Didn't I tell you? Didn't I tell you that film was great? I didn't lie to you, did I? Now,
enter this doorway to the living, breathing house of captive horror with an inescapable destiny.
Have you ever wondered what would happen if someone tried to make the Twilight Zone while high on every substance available in 1971? Well, the Toy Box has the answer for you. This psychedelic nightmare follows a group of guests who visit a bizarre house where reality, it just starts melting faster than your brain cells at a Grateful Dead concert. So, one minute you're watching a relatively normal scene, and then the next you're deep in a kaleidoscope of weird imagery and questionable decisions. This was shot for about $3.50 and a bag of groovy beads, and it's like someone tried to make a serious commentary about modern decadence, but kept getting distracted by their left-handed cigarettes.
Caligula!
Okay, I know what you're thinking. With a $17 million budget and a cast that includes Malcolm McDowell, Helen Mirren, and Pierre O'Toole, this isn't technically a B movie. But hear me out. This is what happens when you give exploitation films ambitions on a Hollywood budget. Penthouse's Bob Guccione wanted to make this the most expensive adult film ever, disguised as a serious historic epic. The result? It was pure chaos. Gore Vidal sued to have his name removed. I mean, the producer and director, they were practically making two different movies simultaneously, and the stars, they probably wished they'd read the fine print in their contracts just a bit more carefully. It's like someone tried to make Ben-Hur after a wild weekend in Vegas. McDowell plays Caligula like a rock star in a toga, while Helen Mirren and Peter O'Toole, they somehow maintain their dignity in a film determined to strip it away. I mean, it might not be a B movie by budget, but in spirit, it's pure exploitation gold.
Bye-bye now.
Before Jonathan Demme was directing Silence of the Lambs, he was making this surprisingly artsy woman in prison film. Shot by future Oscar nominee Tak Fujimoto, it's got more style than it has any right to have. I ain't sure it's got all the prison cliches, you know, the corrupt wardens and shower scenes and catfights, but it's shot like a film noir, written like, you know, someone actually cared about the characters. You know what makes this the queen of exploitation? It manages to be both exactly what you expect, but completely surprising at the same time. It's like someone accidentally made actual art while trying to make a drive-in movie. The 1970s were wild, folks. These films were pushing every boundary they could find, and probably inventing a few new ones. And now, for something completely different, as I said in the beginning, you all pushed this channel over 20,000 subscribers, and I want to give you a special thank you. If you're subscribed to the channel and you leave a like and just some type of comment in the video, I'm entering you into a drawing and giving away one of these 5 brand new exploitation DVDs from my personal collection. I'll notify the winners in the chat and reach out to each one of the lucky vault dwellers who wins. And just remember, there's a reason they don't make movies like this anymore. There's probably several reasons. Actually, there's definitely several reasons. So keep it weird, folks.